Welcome to the Over Boys. This is Antonio from No Marks Allowed. This episode, we're going to talk about in Triple H Retrust, also the Young Bucks going to WWE, and Ric Flair cannot go out like that. But first, we got to go to Nashville, Tennessee for Summerslam. And although this was Vince's last WWE show, he had control of it. It had Triple H's sprinkles all over it. From the first match, Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. This match was crazy. And this is one of the rivals we have now in wrestling. Sort of like we had Bayley versus, Sasha Banks, that rivalry. We had Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. Put Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair up there with one of the best rivalries in female wrestling. And this match had to be a 5-star match. Bianca Belair has showed so much growth. And I always go back when she never won that NXT title. I was so upset they kept putting other people over for her. But it all paid off because she stayed 10 toes down. Never complained about pushes. Never complained about getting beat by Becky in 27 seconds. She just got on her grind and shook back. And for her to beat, Becky Lynch in her home state is a plus. But then we had Bayley return. And I remember a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, Bayley and Bianca Belair had one of the best Hell in a Cell matches ever with no blood, no scratches on their body, but they were fucking each other up, proving you can't have a hardcore Hell in a Cell match or a hardcore match and be brutal without showing blood. That match was awesome. But she brought back some familiar faces that we all loved from the Black and Gold brand. Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. So we know, I have to admit, I was wrong. I thought Triple H was just going to be a face and Vince McMahon was going to be pulling the strings of creative. So far, I'm totally wrong. And this is Triple H's thing to run with, man. And he's just making everybody happy. And then Becky Lynch turns face again to have Bianca's back. I thought she was going to turn on Bianca because you can't trust Becky Lynch and then join Bayley's team. But that didn't go that way. I mean, she had Bianca's back. And shout out to Bianca. Like, she stood 10 toes down in that ring. In typical face fashion, didn't hightail it out of there. Kept her calm, waited for Bayley to jump. Act froggy and jump. I'll take on all three of y'all. Lucky that didn't happen. But the bad news is Becky Lynch got injured, so that was foul. Now, let's get back to what I said on the last episode of the Overboys. Because I am the receipt king, and I've been watching wrestling for so long. And when it comes to the main event between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, this is what I said. I guess, I think WWE is showing their cards too their hand too early. With Austin Theory talking shit about Brock Lesnar or agitating Roman Reigns, whatever he's doing, clearly he's gonna have a role in that SummerSlam match and gonna cost Roman or Brock the SummerSlam match. I think he's gonna cost Brock. See, I've been watching wrestling for too long. And I think they're showing their hand too early. And I think a lot of you fans probably, you smarks or smart fans, know that what's going to happen at SummerSlam already. A lot of people that was naive or just don't know shit about wrestling would have said, well, I didn't know Austin Theory was going to do that. I knew Austin Theory was going to cost one of those guys the match. And it was Brock. But how genius is it of Triple H, his creative mind to say, don't cash in that money in the bank because we're not ready for Roman to drop the belt, or Austin Theory to cash in that money in the bank and win. And like I said before, WWE is recycling the same matches but putting different stipulations on them. And they had to do this last man standing with Brock and Roman because it just never worked. WrestleMania 34 didn't work. SummerSlam, when he won the title a couple of years ago, that didn't work. Then when he went to the Saudi Arabia and fought Roman again, that didn't work. WrestleMania 35 was probably the worst main event in WrestleMania history, if I can recall. Because I know The Undertaker had a bad match with Goldberg, but that wasn't... It was either the WrestleMania 34, the main event between Brock and Roman, or that WrestleMania 38 main event between Brock and Roman. Probably the two worst, you know, the two worst WWE WrestleMania main events ever. But Nashville, I mean, they got a treat because this was awesome. The last man standing. And Brock just took it there with the bulldozer. Big farm boy opened up and let us know what he's about off camera with the new farmer gimmick. And he put the bulldozer, flipped the ring over with Roman in it. But Austin Theory had to come in and try to take advantage, and he got nailed. And then the Usos came and super kicked Brock, and Brock still kicks out. Roman hit Brock with that briefcase so many times, and Brock kicked out. But here's the caveat. Just like Roman lost to Brock 3 to 4 times in a row, Roman got that back by beating him 3 times in a row. And he said it on, I think, ABC, Good Morning America, that he would be the only person that beat Brock 3 times in a row. And Brock, he saluted everyone after the match was over, saying he was retired. I feel like this is not the end of Brock Lesnar. And there was rumors that Brock was mad and said, if Vince is gone, I'm gone. Because every time ratings fell or the WWE was on some bullshit, Vince turned to Brock Lesnar. Vince turned to Becky Lynch. Now he's turning to Ronda Rousey. So Triple H might not be willing to do that. So this Triple H thing might not be him just being the face and Vince just pulling the string. Triple H might pull the strings and try to build WWE back up. From what they tried to do, what he probably wanted to do with NXT is become the oppressor. You know what I mean? Just like the Attitude... No, become the oppressed. Just like the Attitude Era was the oppressed. They was the underground. What WWE had... When WCW had all those big stars, they decided to come through the underground and build from below and bring that shit up. And that's when DX started, and that's where the table started to turn with Stone Cold and The Rock, Mick Foley. Now, Triple H wanted to do the same thing when AEW had the biggest stars, and they were beating the shit out of WWE and winning the demographic. He wanted to bring Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, all those guys to be a revolution, Dexter Lumis, and then bring them up to Raw and have that revolution of being the oppressed. And now we can overcome being the oppressed because we are the new stars and we can take over the wrestling game if AEW keeps hiring older guys and don't be able to build new stars when you're trying to build up CM Punk, Chris Jericho, you know what I'm saying, Christian Cage, Matt Hardy. So while you're building up those old guys, we're going to build up these new guys, and those old guys are going to get too old. That's the revolution Triple H wanted to start. Vince McMahon was upset because people were saying NXT was better than WWE, and he just killed it, destroyed it, and didn't like the spot fest. But Shawn Michaels said, it was reported that Shawn Michaels said that one of his guys that was watching NXT is like, this is what the fans want, a spot fest. And that's what we like. We like spot fests. Everybody knows it's a work now. So give us some athletic abilities. We got Ja Morant, skinny as hell, slam dunking on niggas' head. We got LeBron at 37 dunking on people's heads. Steve Curry hitting threes. We got Patty the Batty in the UFC knocking people dead. You know what I mean? Like Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena having wars. Give us something that can compare to that. And the closest thing to a LeBron slam dunk or a Tom Brady or Lamar Jackson touchdown run and a touchdown pass is a fucking high spot. It's not two big dudes just hitting each other with axe handles with Vince McMahon yelling and overstating every fucking move. That's not what wrestling is. And Joey Janela was like, no one watches this shit anymore. And that's why Kenny Omega and Okada made this shit look real. It made people come back to it like me. I missed the whole Ruthless Aggression era. And I'll be the first to admit it. I ain't watched that bullshit because the UFC was real. If you getting hype over a wrestling match that's a work, imagine how hype you're going to get for a UFC fight that you know is going to be real and you don't know what's going to happen. So I just thought Triple H, we seen his print, and from the the attitudes of the IWC, they all say Triple H is in Triple H we trust. They're making new memes saying the new era is coming to WWE. They're on board, and all we ask to do is WWE be fun on a weekly basis and not be fun every 6 months or once every 4 months or twice a year with SummerSlam and WrestleMania. We want WWE to be fun. We want a reason to watch 3 hours of Raw. And if that's Triple H is going to do that, we can do it. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like I like what's happening right now. Now, Austin Theory and a lot of people said that they were fear that they might lose their spot, which is normal. People might lose their spot if it's a new direction and creative, but maybe this is what we need. And as far as Vince McMahon probably was just tired and ain't want to fight it. He doesn't have the same fight at 77 and 55. I mean, you can't fight the evil fight. I mean, the Jedi's win in Star Wars. So this is like the Jedi's winning, Vince. You gotta lay it down. They set you up. You paid all that money for to shut the woman up about having sex, and I think people didn't know about that money missing or where it went, and it goes to show that you paid hush money. So now you gotta lay it down for a while. So we'll just see if Vince fights this thing. I don't think he's gonna do it. I mean, he can really bask in his glory, like Keith Lee said. At 77, he did a lot for professional wrestling. He did a lot for WWE. Let Steph and Triple H take this thing, man.
Champion Roman Reigns.
Shout out to the Nature Boy Ric Flair. His last match was on SummerSlam weekend, and I feel like he should have went out better than that. It was a long card. It was matches that no one really cared about, all just to be filler for Ric Flair's final match. And it was said it was sponsored by Jim Crockett Promotions. And this is why I believe this won't be Ric Flair's last match. He needs at least 2 or 3 matches. And why didn't he sign to AEW if he's no longer with WWE? He had to get an offer from Tony Khan. Tony Khan is trying to sign all these people like Bray Wyatt, Sting, fucking Braun Strowman, you know what I mean? All these WWE free agents. He had to take a stab at Ric Flair. He brought Tully Blanchard back. And for some reason, Ric Flair might be holding on to some sick loyalty to WWE that he didn't want to do it. But WWE also buried him. Why would WWE have SummerSlam July 29th? I know it was a reason that I didn't go to SummerSlam. And part of it was, 2 years in a row I went to SummerSlam. But this year, part of it was something just seemed off. It was way in Nashville, but now the other thing that was off was the date. It was July 29th. This is the earliest SummerSlam has ever been. It's always the earliest SummerSlam ever been is like around August 11th, from what I remember. August 11th. Last year it was August 21st. Now, you know, Ric Flair had problems with Becky Lynch and had a beef about, you know, trademarking the man, and they gave that to Becky Lynch. And Ric Flair was like, I'm the man, and shouting and shouting. And Becky Lynch was like, Ric Flair is going broke, so he needs to do things for clout. Something of that nature in that tweet. Becky Lynch is a savage. And that was when she was having her beef and her feud with Charlotte Flair. So now WWE buried Ric Flair. You don't have SummerSlam almost a month later. That's calculated Vince fuckery. Last year SummerSlam was like August 20th. The one before that was like August 18th or on the 20th. So this is on July 29th. That's no wonder why I didn't go to SummerSlam. This shit was too fucking early. I usually go to SummerSlam August and then 2 or 3 weeks later go to fucking All Out in Chicago. No, this year it was weird. When I really didn't pay attention to it. It was like July 29th. WWE was so fucking garbage. I didn't really give a fuck back then. But they had 2 pay-per-views in 1 month. So they had to try to bury Ric Flair. But the thing I don't like about Ric Flair's last match, on TV this looked like a big ass crowd, but it probably was small. Ric Flair, Crockett Promotions only represents the first part of Ric Flair's career. And he needs to go out in front of a large crowd at WrestleMania. He needs 3 final matches. Or a large crowd at All Out or Double or Nothing, something. He cannot go out like this. This shit was a shame. And you know, Ric Flair, it was a decent match, but just we shouldn't have been talking about nothing else but Ric Flair's final match. And instead we was talking about how great SummerSlam was. Ric Flair's final match was just something that we talked about because, you know, just to be nice. You know what I mean? This Ric Flair's final match. But he has to do something. He has to have a final match with NWA and Ric Flair's last match with WWE, because he went to WWE and had a career in WWE. So this is a marketing genius. Ric Flair's last match in the National Wrestling Alliance. Ric Flair's last match in the WWE. Ric Flair's last match in AEW. Or you can call it Ric Flair's final match, and that could be in AEW. You see what I'm saying? Or he can just settle out at a WrestleMania with Triple H taking control of WrestleMania. Anything happened. With creative, now we might get The Rock. But let's get back to Ric Flair. Ric Flair needs to have his last match in a bigger venue than this. And he has to have a last match where it's nothing else, you know, going on besides SummerSlam, which is WWE's probably second biggest event in WrestleMania. And Vince McMahon did that shit on purpose. You see what I'm saying? SummerSlam, you have SummerSlam a fucking month early? That's crazy. That's why attendance was so fucking low at SummerSlam. Even though 40,000 is a lot of people, it looks bad when half of the stadium empty, but Vince doesn't care. He's just greedy. But yeah, Ric Flair ended up winning the match. He teamed up with Charlotte Flair's husband, Andrade, against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. And I like the way that they built this match up. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal being the heels in this situation. Then Ric Flair bringing Big Gold. You see the over voice. But yeah, I felt that Ric Flair deserves it. And he can make a few dollars and just tag team with people. You know what I mean? Have Ric Flair's last match in WWE, Ric Flair's last match in NWA, Ric Flair's last final match, and that could be in AEW. You see what I'm saying? Because he never was in AEW. So you can do the Ric Flair match, last match in NWA, probably can get a cool $1 million for that. Then you do a Ric Flair's last match in WWE, he probably can get $2 million for that with the payoffs and the bonus. And then AEW, they still do pay-per-views. You can do Ric Flair's final match in AEW against Chris Jericho. Jericho will work him over, you know what I mean? He'll work him over. Jericho will give you all you want. Or it can be Jericho and, you know, Jericho and Daniel Garcia, or Jericho and Sammy Guevara, or the Sports Entertainers, versus where Ric Flair and Jon Moxley, have him go against Ric Flair and Jon Moxley, and that will be the pro wrestling, and that can be Ric Flair's final match because he never went to AEW. That sounds like a great idea because this wasn't it. I mean, the crowd looks nice, but AEW, I don't know if this was more people than All In. I gotta get the numbers, but it looked nice the way that cameraman panned out. That shit like a packed house. But I think AEW All Out was a bigger crowd than this. But you can make shit. This probably only 2,500 people at the most. I know it can't be 10,000. Hell no. Because All Out looks like 25,000 people are there on TV, but that only holds 10,000, and that shit be lit. This looked like a little bit small from where he walked down that one way. And the light is not covering my face. I learned the lesson not to sit in front of the fucking TV. So hopefully you can see me better. Brought a microphone for Amazon, and that shit ain't even fucking work. I'm trying to get my sound better. I can't win for losing, man. But shout out to the Over Boys. Because I'm going to bring you that real shit. This is the most dangerous podcast in wrestling. Now, I was just thinking, are the Young Bucks going to go to the WWE in 2024? Because I know that their contract ends in 2024. I think they re-signed for 2 more years. But at this point, I remember being the Elite, everybody thought they were going to go to WWE. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman, Marty Scurll, they blew up the Indies. And for the team like the Young Bucks, who have the Impact titles, the New Japan titles, the Ring of Honor titles, the only thing left for them to do in their career with Kenny Omega is go to the fucking WWE. But Tony Khan ran into Matt and Nick Jackson and said there's a market for non-WWE wrestling. He was a New Japan fan, Ring of Honor fan, Ring of Honor fan, New Japan fan, and he said there is a market for non-WWE wrestling. This independent era is the best era of wrestling over the 80s and Attitude Era because people have so many choices. Look at GCW, look at the death matches. Despite having low crowds or small venues, those guys are getting people talking about them every day. My guy, a wrestling enthusiast, he has a page about nothing but indie wrestling. And he goes to nothing but indie shows, so there's a market for it. Whether it's small or not large, it's a market for it, and it's getting huge. Well, the Young Bucks have done that. The only thing the Young Bucks haven't done is go to GCW and have a death tag team match. I guess that's what's next for them. But I feel like in 2024, they might go to WWE. Look at all the teams they're losing to. Jungle Express. They lost to Keith Lee and Swerve. Usually when you do things like that, like Jim Cornette says, do a few jobs on your way out. You know what I mean? Like lose to a couple of people you shouldn't lose to. You see what I'm saying? Like the Young Bucks just got those titles. And you know what I mean? And they dropped them to Keith Lee fast. So what I'm thinking is the Young Bucks is trying to build the tag team, build the roster as much as possible. Look how good FTR is. They're winning everything. So they can make their exit out of AEW without leaving the void. Now, you just see Adam Cole turn on the Young Bucks and then Hangman come and save them. But the Young Bucks, all signs, if you really read between the lines, all signs are that the Young Bucks are going into WWE in 2024. And I predict that because I don't see them retiring. And if they're going to stay in AEW, why not extend it to fucking 2026? Is AEW going to be done in 2024? You see what I'm saying? Like, why would you only sign to 2024? And I seen a couple episodes of the Elite or interviews with Matt or something where his son, Matt's son is playing with WWE toys. You see what I'm saying? Matt Jackson, at his meet and greet, he did a panel at Double or Nothing, and a guy asked him what was his dream match. He was like, "This will probably never happen." He said the Usos, and I wanted to say, he said the Usos, and I said the Road Warriors, and then Matt was like, "That would be a squash match." Matt or Nick even said, one of them said that would be a squash match. No, it wouldn't. You grab the powder and throw it in Hawk and Animal's face, Matt. Have you seen the Midnight Express versus the Road Warriors in the scaffold matches? Have you seen the Freebirds against the Road Warriors in the scaffold matches? That's how you not make it a squash match. You're heels now, so you can cheat. So the Road Warriors versus the Bucks would not be a squash match because you just throw the powder in Hawk and Animal's eyes. And now we understand a hello blow and powder in the eyes, that will stop the juggernaut. But get back to the Young Bucks. I feel like the Young Bucks, don't be surprised if they're in WWE in 2024 and go on a run and win the SmackDown and Raw titles, because that will symbolize them doing everything in wrestling. And for Matt to say the Usos, when they asked him what his dream match is, it's really symbolizing that wrestlers like each other. Like, the wrestlers don't beef with each other. You know what I mean? They might have Twitter beef when Kenny Omega says Roman Reigns is a fucking joke in the ring, but I don't think it's to the point where they would squabble. Like, they said MVP and Chris Jericho was going to get into a fight at the bar. You guys are dickheads and dumb as fuck if you think these two multimillionaires, MVP and Chris Jericho, in their 40s is going to have a fist fight and go to jail and hurt each other for real. No, they too fucking blessed. Like Pimp C said, these motherfuckers is lying. We too goddamn blessed and got too much money to be going to war with each other. You see what I'm saying? And that's what it is with the wrestlers. Like, they got too much money and they're too fucking blessed to be going to war with each other. And I just feel like after this trios things, they win the trios, they're two-time AEW champions, why not go to WWE? And I really think the Young Bucks will be in WWE before their career's over. I don't know about Kenny Omega. He might leave. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if he would do it. He probably wouldn't want a job or lose to Roman Reigns. I mean, he probably wouldn't want to do that because he's a far superior talent than Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns in-ring shit is garbage. Just like Cody Rhodes, you got to put a lot of shit around Roman Reigns for the match to work out. Or you can have a guy that's carrying him, and Roman Reigns is just doing all the power moves. But don't be surprised if the Young Bucks are in WWE in 2024.